Hello, everyone, and good morning. We will start the session within 2 to 3 minutes, waiting for the audience to join. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you for attending today's webinar. I am Ahmed Al-Nahari, the Business Development Manager from Redington Group. I will be your host today for today's webinar. I will just give you a brief about my role. My role is to consult, support, and guide the partner and the client during their journey with AWS. Today's webinar is about the migration journey with AWS and the hybrid cloud solution. The agenda for today, it will be the welcome notes, and then the Royal Cyber introduction. They will introduce the Royal Cyber for you, the Royal Cyber team. And then Royal Cyber will discuss about the success story in AWS. And then AWS team, they will talk about the migration to AWS. Again, the AWS team will talk about the hybrid cloud solution. At the end of the session, we will give you time to ask any question that you have in your mind. So we will be there for you to answer all your questions, and you can ask during the webinar if you have any question. Our speaker will answer your question during the webinar. I will share a Q card and the feedback link during the webinar, and then I will share also after a while the QR, so you can scan that and give us your feedback. We need to hear from you to improve ourselves from time to time. So our speaker today will be Ali Iqbal from Royal Cyber. He's the business development manager. And then Sumer Hamza from Royal Cyber. He's the global cloud practice head. And then Ayman Faraj from AWS, the solution architect migration specialist. And then Saad Khan from AWS, the partner management solution architect. So maybe you can take 1 minute to scan the QR code so you can give us your feedback during the webinar. And then I will share also the link for if you want to use your laptop to give us your feedback. So Ali, I believe you can start share your screen.
Sure. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly honor and privilege to be here today as a representative of Royal Cyber. My name is Ali Iqbal. I am the business development manager at Royal Cyber, working for the Middle East area, and I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to introduce you to our remarkable organization. Royal Cyber is the system integration services company, and we focus on enterprises solutions like AWS. With AWS, we have a very strong technical team, and we have a lot of big customer along, across Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and US market as well. Royal Cyber has been, working in the industry for more than 20 years. We have more than 2,000 plus employees globally, situated in different five continents. In different five continents, we have distributed team with 10 different offices around the world. We have over 250 plus certified resources. And if we particularly talk about Middle East, we have more than 300 resources working around the kingdom. We do have a couple of offshore centers in Pakistan, a couple of in India, and we do have an office in Egypt where we have an Arabic speaking developers consultant that can help our big customers. I'm from a business unit called Digital Solution, where we work on cloud middleware enterprise modernization. As I mentioned, we're not only system integrated services company, but we are also a one-stop sort of services company where there are any challenges with the current integration or any other areas. As an example, if you have to move to microservices to an application or to AWS, or if you want to convert it to microservices, we do have the expertise. We have expertise in doing migration solution, and we have a lot of customer out here working on digital transformation. These are the different customers that we have worked in terms of verticals like healthcare, retail, manufacturing, finance, and emerging technologies. What truly set Royal Cyber apart is our passionate team of experts who possesses a wealth of knowledge and a genuine commitment to client success. We are dedicated to fostering strong, long-lasting partnership with our clients, understanding their unique needs, and delivering innovative solutions and services that exceed expectation. Thank you so much. Over to Sumer.
Thank you so much, Ali. Let me start by sharing my side of the screen. All right, so I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So first of all, again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk on this platform. So my name is Sumer, and I work as a global cloud practice head here at Royal Cyber, where basically I look over all of the cloud solution operations that happen throughout the company. And today I just wanted to let you guys, give you guys a brief overview about the Royal Cyber's AWS practice that we have here. So as Ali mentioned that we are a 20-year-old company, but out of that 20 years, for the past 10 years, we have been working with AWS throughout the world, serving customers from different regions. And we are a, we are a AWS select tier partner as well. This allows us to tap into AWS services potential through which we can better serve our customers, provide them better privileges that normally other service vendors wouldn't be able to. And we work very closely hand in hand with AWS engineers to solve complex problems in terms of the business needs that our customers are actually looking for. If we talk about the AWS practice itself, so we have a very mature practice within Royal Cyber. We have a pool of more than 200 plus cloud resources which are spanned across different, different verticals and technology expertise throughout the AWS cloud practice. As you can see within the screen, we have a team of enterprise architects, DevOps, cloud engineers, cloud developers, SREs, and governance lead as well. Through the sheer combination of the talent pool that we have and the training pool that gets attached to it as well. So, for example, we take in engineers, we train them to the utmost level that our customers are looking for, and then eventually deploy them to projects or internal products as well. So this is a complete end-to-end service solution that we can give while we're working on AWS itself, backed up with a decade of experience working on the AWS technologies from the team. In terms of service pool, these are all the different services that we've catered to throughout the different customers. And if you can see, we cover a wide range of AWS services. Any AWS service you think of, definitely our company, our team would be able to cater to it. Not only that, uh, any new service that actually gets launched. So we have a whole R&D section or a R&D department within the cloud practice whose sole purpose is to basically adapt to these new technologies, check out the new changes, see if we can implement them with our current customers or create a solution or service around it, and then embark that to our upcoming new logos as well. In terms of high level solutions, these are the high level solutions that we can actually provide within AWS, like cloud strategy, migration, managed services, and DevOps. For this particular talk, we are going to focus more on hybrid and multi-cloud migration strategies. So we've catered to different core services. We have a lot of great use cases throughout the years that we have done with various different customers on AWS that covers all of these different different core services and verticals. But for today's session, I would like to focus on one particular case study that we did with a financial institute who has been working in the industry for more than 50 years now. And as you can understand that, companies who have been working in the industry for more than a few decades, they're very much reliant on-premises infrastructure, because that's how things used to run. That's how things used to operate at that time. But as technology started to grow and people had more access to the internet, business started to tend to grow as well. And that's where the bottleneck started to hit to these companies who were very much reliant on these on-premises services. Now, the core challenge that normally all of these companies have is that they're so much dependent on these on-premises services or their on-premises infrastructure, or should I say the legacy code that is running in these in their infrastructure. It's not easy for them to just lift and shift or just do a one single migration strategy and move everything onto the cloud. So it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of responsibility, and takes a lot of risk as well, especially when you're talking about the financial sector of the industry. So in that particular case, what we came up with is a hybrid solution using some on-premises services and some services that can be deployed on-premises, but can easily be connected to AWS itself. So this is something we did with this particular customer, is that we utilized AWS services that can be deployed on premises, like, for example, AWS Outpost, AWS Gateway. So what we did with Outpost is that their compute resources, again, since they were scaling up vertically or horizontally, even if they were doing horizontally, they had to add more and more CPUs in the rack. And what we did was we simply deployed a few AWS Outpost racks within their on-premises, connected those racks to the AWS cloud, and created a complete migration journey or a migration pipeline of data from on-premises to the AWS cloud, which is now currently residing in S3 buckets. Before that, they were completely reliant on file storage within their on-premises data centers, which was doing the job at that time. But then again, it was quickly hitting the bottleneck itself. The other challenge that they were having was they had technology debt on their side. So they weren't able to modernize. They weren't able to do a lot of different experiments, integrate different services within their infrastructure. And that's where, these AWS, by hooking up to the AWS cloud, they gave them that flexibility, that openness, to adapt to new technology and remove the technology debt that they were actually facing. It helped them improve the scalability because once using the AWS Outpost, using the storage gateways, and using the S3 buckets, they were able to easily scale up their infrastructure depending on the traffic needs, depending on the infrastructure needs that they were having. It helped them reduce the latency as well, because now since they were able to connect to the cloud, they can easily deploy in different regions, their resources in different regions, which were nearer to their on-site regions where their customers were actually being served. It also increased their security because the benefit of going to AWS is that AWS had a lot of different packages, plus our own internal team had a lot of different products which adhered to the best practices that AWS actually provides when it comes to using resources on the cloud. It lowered their cost because now they don't have to worry about the infrastructure, adding more hardware to the infrastructure. They didn't have to worry about adding more staff to manage that infrastructure, and eventually it really help them lower the overall cost of running and maintaining all of that infrastructure altogether. So all of these services combined together helped this customer create a hybrid environment where some of their workloads were working on the cloud, while some of their legacy workloads, which they were not that much comfortable sharing over to the cloud due to regional restrictions, due to compliance adherence that they had to follow within that region. So that data had to reside within their own on-premise infrastructure. So they were able to create a hybrid solution out of it, some portion on the cloud, some portion on the on-prem, and eventually they were able to adhere to their business needs and easily come out of the technical debt that they were facing before going to the cloud itself. This is a high level overview of what the infrastructure looked like before the hybrid modernization actually happened. As you can see, they had on-premise services, they had compute storage racks, and then again the on-premise environment was actually connected to one storage gateway. But eventually, when we connected with AWS itself, using AWS Direct Connect, using AWS Outposts, and using AWS storage gateways, we were able to move their on-premises environment, some of their on-premises environment onto the cloud, and some of their on-premises environment stayed over there. But the core services within the infrastructure level were still being used from AWS front, which helped them come out of the shell of being locked up to the technology debt, and then eventually be able to add more services and more infrastructure and more processes within that complete time frame. So that's a very quick overview of what we did with this customer. Like I said, there are a lot of tons of other use cases that we can definitely go through with. So whenever you so basically, whenever you guys have the time, do check us out. I would love to hear back from you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Ahmed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sumer. Thank you, Sumer. I would like to notify the audience. Please share your feedback. We already shared the link through the chat box. So whenever you are available, please click on the link and then share your feedback. Hand over to you, Ayman. Please go ahead and share your screen.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it is on the desktop. Can you share?
Okay, perfect. It's loading right now. Hello, everyone. I am Ayman Farag, Senior Solution Architect for Migration and Modernization team. Very happy to be here with you today to talk about your prescriptive guidance for a successful migration and modernization journey with AWS. Today, we will cover the migration and modernization framework and the migration and modernization pathways. Then we will deep dive a little bit about what do we mean by modernization and what is the modernization approach that we deliver through our partners. At any customer engagement that we have with AWS, we have this framework. This framework, we always utilize it for any migration and modernization opportunity, which comes in 3 phases: assess, mobilize, migrate, and modernize. In the assess phase, we start to assess the customer readiness to go to the cloud, because we don't want to have any surprises. When we take the decision to go to the cloud, we need to do all kind of discovery governance, assessment, enablement to our customers before planning to go to the cloud. So as we can see here in the assess phase, we start by rapid discovery to collect information like the operating systems, the servers, the applications, the databases, the business drivers for moving to the cloud. Then we do what we call it migration readiness assessment. It's like a full day questionnaire with all customer stakeholders. And the main goal of this assessment to assess the customer readiness to go to the cloud. Like we assess all the CAF cloud adoption framework pillars like the business, people, platform, governance, security, and operation. And based on this assessment, we give a lot of recommendations for our customers, like how to adapt their operating model, what is the new technology that they are missing that it can help them to achieve their business goals. And based on that, we can provide a lot of workshops, briefings, immersion days for the customer as enablement for them. Then after this phase, we have like in the mobilize phase, we start to build 4 main accelerators around the people, platform, portfolio, and the real migration. Like in the people, we help the customer to build the skills and to build center of excellence to manage on the cloud, because it's not exactly the same way that they are managing today from an operating model perspective. From a platform perspective, we help the customer to build a landing zone with all the security required in their VBC and their landing zone, help them to adjust the operating model to include all the security and compliance. Also, from a portfolio perspective, we help the customer to do end-to-end discovery to make the dependencies between the servers and the business applications, between the databases and the business applications, also between across business applications. So we can help them to build migration waves and complete the business case to have the full support from the customer sponsors that we are going to the cloud. Then at the end, we help the customer to have to select 2 or 3 applications, and we do the migration. We help them to do the migration so they can take notes and record all the SOPs and runbooks and best practices. Then at the 3rd phase, the customer is ready to scale this methodology and keep migrating more and more workloads. So as a recap, we have 3 phases: assess, mobilize, migrate, and modernize. The assess phase, the main goal to create a case for this change. The mobilize phase, to build the muscles and readiness through experience so the customer is ready and comfortable to go to the cloud. Then at the 3rd phase, to accelerate this transformation at scale and keep it going. Okay, that's very good. Let's assume we already finalized the assess phase and we agreed that we will go to the cloud. Then it will take us to the next big question: how to determine the best migration and modernization path. We have multiple ways to go to the cloud. So how to determine the best path for our workload? As we can see here, during the discovery phase, we start to determine the best migration path for each specific workload. As we can see here, we can go as a retain. Sometimes we have some workload that for some compliance reason or very low latency, that it must stay on-prem, and this is where it will make a big benefit to have this kind of hybrid solution like Outpost and the other solution that was mentioned in the last presentation. Also, some of the workload, when we analyze them, we can find some UET which is very extremely legacy, so it doesn't make sense to keep it or to move it to the cloud, and it makes sense to decommission those workloads. Then when it comes to going to the cloud, we have again multiple ways to do it. those methodologies or those pathways are different from complexity and from the business outcome that you will achieve based on this selection. As an example, we have a very easy pathway as a relocate. If you have running VMware right now on premises, you can move it directly to AWS region as a VMC. The same nature of VMware, you can do this in a couple of days. This is the quickest and the easiest path, and you will start to get some benefits from the cloud, like the elasticity and scalability. However, when you move and select more and more modern approach to migrate to the cloud, you will realize more and more benefits. We have another pathway, which is rehosting, which we call it lift and shift. Okay, for the same example, if we have VMs, instead of moving the VMs as is to VMC, we can move them to EC2, which is the similar technology that we have on AWS, to have a similar VMs, but on our own hypervisor. And we call this one lift and shift. If we go with EC2, you will realize and take more benefits from the cloud compared to the relocate. We have some other workload that we can replatform, which is lift and reshape. In replatform, you will take more benefits. As an example, you have an old operating system. So instead of just lift and shift to EC2, you can do some upgrades to this operating system and move it to EC2. As an example, instead of running database on a VM on-prem, you can, yes, rehost it and move it to EC2. But instead, in the replatform, you can move it to managed service, RDS. So you will remove all the overhead of the operation. So again, when we're moving in this direction, you will take more and more benefits. Sometimes we have the option, which is repurchase as well, which basically replace or drop and chop. As an example, you have some application as an CRM in-house built, and you can find on marketplace there is a lot of other solution for CRM that you can use, commercial off the shelf. So in that case, you will just drop your application and have a new SaaS offering from the marketplace and just migrate your data. That's it. And the last one, which is refactoring, which like rewriting or decoupling your application. As an example, right now you have a monolith application and you need to rewrite your application in a way to make it more modern and to move it to something like container or event-driven architecture and so on. This kind of a change is for sure more complex compared to the easier options like relocate and rehost. However, for some specific application, it's recommended because it will give you the business value that you are looking for as agility and so on. So those are all the 7 R's that we have and which we consider during any migration and modernization. But again, we still didn't fix the problem, how to determine which path is the best to my workload. The answer would be, it depends. It depends on the nature of the application, and it depends on the business outcome expected from this application. We can categorize our applications in 3 portfolio tiers as a sustain, optimize, and grow. As an example, we have a specific workload which is not business critical. It's not business critical, and it doesn't require a huge agility. When it comes to the frequency of the changes on the code, it's very stable and we don't do a lot of changes per year. So this kind of applications, we will put it in this tier as a sustain. And here it will make sense for those kind of applications like the productivity apps and non-business critical apps to just rehost or retire them based on the nature of the application. And we can see that like typical customers have like 50% of their applications fall in this category. And in this category, it doesn't make sense to invest a lot of money and time to refactor and to modernize your application. It's not required. We always have this trade-off to compare between the cost and the effort that you will do to modernize your application compared to the nature of the application and the business outcome expected from this application. On the other hand, we have some other applications which are business critical applications. However, again, it have a very low rate of change, no huge agility required. As an example, the ERP system, the CRM, logistics, system of records. For those kind of applications, we put them in this tier, optimize, which makes sense to modernize a little bit those applications, like to move them to select the re-platform or repurchase options from the 7 Rs. And we see that almost 30% of the typical customer workload fall in this category. Finally, we have some applications which have a huge rate of change, and you have a lot of feature requests every week, every month. And this kind of applications like the customer-facing web apps, the real-time analytics, the mobile, the IoT, the big data, it has this kind of required frequency and agility from feature requests on the application code. So for those specific workloads, it makes sense to invest time and effort to refactor the code and to modernize your infrastructure to support your business need specifically from the agility perspective and developer experience. And we can see that almost 20% of the typical customer workload fall in this category as a group. So as a recap, during the assessment phase, we discover all the workloads. Some of the workloads were retained, some of them were retired. Then based on the business criticality, based on the required agility and the application nature, we will decide how we will move this application. It will fall in which category: grow, optimize, sustain, and what is the appropriate migration strategy that we will use for this workload. It's very important to have this kind of comparison. When we have the 7 Rs, here we are ranking them based on the migration complexity. For sure, it's much easier to relocate a workload compared to refactor a workload, because refactor again will change the code, will change the operating model, will change a lot of stuff. So when it comes to complexity, rehost is much easier than refactor. When it comes to the cost to migrate, again, rehost is very easy. You can do it very quickly. We have some tools which you can rehost and move your application to AWS as is on EC2. However, on refactor, to move them to something like microservices on containers or on Lambda or event-driven architecture, it will take some time to architect and to invest and to enable and to adapt the operating model. So it's more expensive, the cost of migration. However, when it comes to the cost to operate, you will find it the other way around. You will find that the rehost is more expensive compared to the refactor, because in the refactor, especially at scale, you can have a lot of saving. And for sure, from agility perspective, the rehost will not give you the agility that you can achieve when you refactor and modernize your code and your application. We keep talking about modernization, but let's talk about what do we mean by modernization. Modernization for AWS is refactoring of legacy technology by combining modern infrastructure, architecture, organizational pattern together to maximize the resiliency, the efficiency, and the business agility. And it's very important to note that modernization, it has 3 pillars. The first one is the technology and architecture. And this is the only one related to the technology and architecture. As an example, when we talk about any new technology like container, event-driven, moving to microservices, all of this fall in this pillar, which is technology and architecture. However, we have another two pillars in the modernization. One of them is about people, process, culture, which I was referring to when during my presentation about the operating model, the processes that you have. Because again, if you will just modernize your infrastructure and your technology without modernizing how people are communicating together through the processes and they still working as silos, you will not take the benefits that you expect from modernization. So modernization, it's a package. You need to do all those stuff together to have the expected outcome from agility perspective for the modern application. Also, as a third one, it's ops and governance at scale. Here it comes to some points related to infrastructure as a code, to have templates, to have self-service portal, to have more and more automation for deploying and running and testing your workload and your applications. In any app modernization engagement, again, we have three phases to do it with our customers. First, we identify the modernization opportunities and use cases. As I have explained to you, not all the applications will require a full refactoring or a full modernization. So we need to discuss this with our customer stakeholders to identify the best application that fit for modernization and for refactoring, based again on the business criticality, the required agility, and the expected business outcome from this application. How can we select what is the right candidate to do a full refactoring or a full modernization? We have some technical reasons and we have some business reasons. As a technical reason, sometimes we have a very old technology and I don't have a proper support from the vendor. So it's a big risk for me. I need to modernize this application. Sometimes I have problems with this application, a lot of SLA's problem, a lot of performance scalability issues. It's difficult to extend the capabilities. There is a lack of this skill set in the market. We don't have the knowledge, too many bugs, very expensive to manage or to integrate. So those reasons can cause us to decide that this workload should be modernized. So it will make sense to invest time and effort to modernize this application based on these technical reasons. We have also some business reasons, which is very important. As an example, this application is very critical to my business success. As an example, this is the customer-facing web app, which will give me all the revenue, all my reputation is coming from this application. So it will make sense to do any enhancement for this application. Significant impact to revenue. It's the market differentiator for my business in the market. So again, always think about modernization, that the value of modernization exceeds the cost. When we do modernization, our goal not only to reduce the cost. Yes, modernization will help you to control and reduce the cost at scale. However, there is a lot of other benefits that you will get from modernization. Then we help the customers to deliver a pilot, like to select one application, to deep dive in the current state architecture of the applications, all the pain points that they have. Then we can help the customer to plan and architect a target architecture for this application and help the customer to do the modernization. So again, they have the muscles and they can scale out and continue this journey. We have some repeatable patterns that we see from a modernization pathways perspective. Here we have all of this on-prem, whatever we have applications, which is legacy on-prem, or commercial database on-prem, or maybe commercial operating system as Windows on-prem. Our ultimate goal to move them to the boxes on the right, to have a full modernization. And we can see 4 main pattern of modernization that we can see from our customers, like to move to cloud native architecture, move to managed service, move to managed databases, or move to open source. We can do this kind of modernization in 1 shot or in 2 shots. Some of our customers, based on the skills and the readiness and the driver, they want to modernize in 1 shot and go to AWS. And some of them, no, they prefer to go, like as an example, left and shift. Then after moving to AWS, they start to modernize. Again, it depends on multiple factors. Depends on the customer skills, readiness. Depends if we have any compelling event. As an example, a customer has a decenter exit after 4 months. So there will be no time to have any modernization exercise, a proper one with the customer. So in that case, it will make sense to lift and shift, then later on you modernize as a long-term engagement. So we take this case by case, but we have both flavors. You can modernize in 1 shot, or you can just rehost to the cloud. Then later on, you work on the modernization. And in the 4 boxes, like it covers most of our modern services that we have, like moving to event-driven architecture, container, having a CI/CD, moving to managed databases, the purpose-built like Aurora, or even the managed service flavor of SQL and so on. Maybe to move to open source if you are running .NET application, .NET code right now on Windows, you can move it to .NET Core and use Linux. Or maybe you can move the SQL Server to Aurora or Windows to Linux, all these kinds to get rid of the huge bill that you pay for your license. Based on what I have explained, we can conclude that modernization is a huge journey. Sometimes you can do it very quickly because always you will find a new trend or new technology or new modern application that is coming year over year. So you need to keep this momentum for modernization. What we are looking for, that you have a legacy on-prem application, maybe very quickly you can just move some of those legacy applications into VMs or containers as relocate or rehosts, and you start to build new cloud native applications natively on AWS, and maybe modernize a little bit of the application. Then later on, we can have another more enhancement to start to increase the chunk that you have of the modern and the cloud native, and reduce more and more the legacy applications and the on-prem, until we achieve something like this, that most of our applications are either cloud native or modernized already on AWS, and we still have a little bit applications on on-prem or legacy. So we know it's a journey. And this here in this curve, you will find, yes, the dollar sign means that the cost will be decreased based on this modernization, but not only the cost, also the business value will increase when you do this kind of modernization. Our main key takeaways from this session, that migration and modernization is a journey and it's iterative. It's not only about technology, but we have other factors like people, infrastructure as a code, to have templates, to have self-service. All of this should be included in the modernization journey. Leverage tools and proven frameworks to accelerate your journey. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ayman. I believe there is one question on the chat box. Maybe you can look at it, Ayman or Saad.
Sure.
Yeah, So I think I responded. So this feature has been pending for a long time. Yeah. So I think this is more around availability of Outpost. So we still do not have final availability for Outpost. It's still pending authorization, but we can work with you to understand the requirements and see how we can accelerate and support. So I think just a to do for Royal Cyber and Redington team to connect with the customer and then connect with us so we can take it further from here.
Sure, Saad. Please go ahead, Saad, and share your screen.
Awesome. Thank you. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we see it, Saad.
Awesome. Perfect. So I will start. So hello and welcome everyone. My name is Saad Khan and I'm a partner management solutions architect with AWS based in Dubai. In my role, I work with AWS partners to help them build and develop their capabilities on AWS. So the topic I will be discussing today is hybrid cloud on AWS. And in this session, we will give you an introduction to some of the hybrid cloud services like VMC on AWS, AWS Storage Gateway, Snow family devices, and then briefly touching on EKS and ECS anywhere. So we will look into some of the use cases for hybrid cloud, technical overview of the services, and how these services and solutions can help customers in their migration and modernization journey to AWS. So let's get started. So the first hybrid cloud option that I'd like to discuss or talk about is VMC or VMware Cloud on AWS. So before I dive deep into the VMC service, it is important that we understand the hybrid cloud challenge. So here are some of the challenges that customers may face when moving to the cloud. Starting with operational consistency. So having different environments on premises and in cloud can be challenging for many customers, especially from an operations perspective. So for customers, the amount of learning curve can be huge and very time consuming. With VMC, you have the same VMware stack available on AWS as well as on premises, and you can pair both environments together to have a seamless experience, and also giving you the ability to utilize native AWS services like S3, RDS, DynamoDB, machine learning and AI services, and 200 plus AWS services. So which can really help you modernize your applications and services. So today, like I mentioned, VMC on AWS is integrated with almost 200 plus AWS services to really help you modernize your workloads on AWS. Now, when we talk about the hybrid cloud, the level of integration can vary greatly, right? But the tighter the integration there is, the greater the level of seamlessness you can achieve. And this is where leveraging VMC can help with the same services and APIs on premises, as well as the same tools that you may be using can be now used in the cloud. And another challenge is really the easy portability of workloads between on-premises and AWS. And this becomes very easy and seamless when using VMware Cloud on AWS. You can easily vMotion VMs back and forth between on-premises and VMware Cloud. So here are some of the facts of the VMC on AWS service and the efficiencies that our customers can achieve if they choose to go with VMware Cloud on AWS. So customers today are using VMC to really accelerate their migration and modernization journey. And according to IDC, customers can really minimize their migration effort and move to modernization faster. VMC can help AWS customers migrate about 46% faster as compared to other and traditional approaches. And also customers who migrate to AWS with VMC experience accelerated adoption of AWS native services as they are able to modernize applications faster, and which is about 2.5 times. So what is the service, right? So VMC on AWS is a jointly engineered cloud service that is delivered, operated, and supported by VMware. We are using the global AWS footprint and AWS reach and availability to quickly spin up VMware's software-defined data center around the globe using EC2 bare metal host. With the same architecture and operational experience on premises and in cloud, customers can benefit from having that level of operational consistency. So VMware Cloud on AWS is the preferred service for AWS for all vSphere-based workloads. VMC brings VMware enterprise class software-defined data center software to the AWS cloud with optimized access to various native AWS services. And powered by VMware Cloud Foundation, VMC integrates with VMware's compute, storage, and network virtualization products such as VMware vSphere, VMware vSAN, NSX, along with the VMware vCenter server management, which is now optimized to run on dedicated, elastic, and bare metal across the globe AWS infrastructure. So VMC on AWS is not a new service, right? So we announced the VMC on AWS service in 2017. And since then, it has traversed a long way. So today, the service is available in about 23 plus AWS regions. And we are continuously expanding the service in more and more regions, as well as constantly releasing new features and updates to it. So most recently, we announced the VMC service in Bahrain, Middle East region. So in February we announced that. So which makes the 23 regions, right, availability for VMC. So which may be very useful for your custom or for the customers, because it's now closer to the Middle East customer. So some of the key capabilities of VMC on AWS are you can get a fully functioning software-defined data center VMware infrastructure ready in less than 2 hours, which means no long waiting times for procuring and ordering hardware and waiting for months, and then long cycles of rack and stack and provisioning. All of these tasks are gone, and a fully functioning VMware software-defined data center is available within 2 hours. And for any additional capacity that you may need or you may need to add, the average time to add a new host is about 12 minutes. And like I mentioned, the service is integrated with over 200 plus AWS services, so you can modernize using the VMware cloud on AWS. So what's included in the cost of VMC? So like I mentioned, it is a fully managed service supported and operated directly by VMware. All the provisioning, operations, and maintenance aspects are fully taken care as it is a fully managed service. So from what's included, all the servers, storage, networking, vSphere licensing, virtual firewalls, all of those components are included as part of the service. And the services that are included can namely, having access to customer success managers, encryption capabilities, deduplication capabilities, migration toolings, 24/7 production support, and all of those are included in the service. And as you move to VMC on AWS, the things that you can avoid, right? The heavy lifting, the unnecessary heavy lifting, you can avoid from a power, cooling, infrastructure, real estate point of view. All of those can be avoided. Lease contracts, duplicate infrastructure to meet business continuity. All of those data center costs are avoided, as well as management costs are avoided, such as racking and stacking, hardware upgrades, firmware upgrades, software patches, keeping the lights on, lifecycle management. All of those data center related and management tasks are now avoided as you move to VMC on AWS. And VMC on AWS has been independently verified to comply with many leading compliance programs, such as ISO 27001, 17, 18, SOC 123, HIPAA compliance, PCI DSS, and many others, right? So and this is not even a full list that you see on your screen. The full list can be found on AWS and VMware documentation online. And also, if you have any compliance or any stringent compliance requirement, please check the supported key industry certifications that VMC is approved for. Additionally, you can reach out to Royal Cyber and Redington team for any help and support on the similar topic. So let's look at the typical cloud migration strategy for VMware Cloud on AWS. So when we talk about this approach, it is essentially a staged approach to modernizing your workloads with VMC. What you have is your on-premises data center and vCenter environment, and a typical journey requires many steps to move to AWS native services, right? And these steps can be refactoring, replatforming, and many other things, maybe even changing code to access all these native services and moving to AWS. As an alternate with VMC, what we suggest or what we advise our customers is to take the first step and move as is to VMware Cloud on AWS, having available the same VMware stack, the same tools, the same services, and you seamlessly move to VMC on AWS, which is often the first step for this approach. And then slowly modernizing and taking baby steps in modernizing your services and your workloads by leveraging different AWS services such as Amazon S3 for object storage, or maybe utilizing fully managed database service such as Amazon RDS, or a NoSQL database like Amazon DynamoDB, or Amazon Redshift for data warehousing. So all of those options are available, and a whole availability of AWS services becomes available once you move to VMC on AWS. Now let's look at some of the VMC on AWS use cases. And these use cases, first is cloud migration, right? Which is the typical one. Again, this can be either application specific. So maybe you have an application that is compatible with VMware infrastructure, and now you're looking to move it to AWS. And this is where VMC can help. Maybe it's a data center wide migration. So maybe you're looking to sunset your existing data center and have a cloud first strategy. This is where VMC can help you move faster and seamlessly to AWS. Or maybe you have an upcoming data center refresh and you're not looking to invest in data center and on-premises hardware and would like to move to cloud and cloud-based VMC infrastructure. This is where VMC is also a fit. Data center expansion is another one. So maybe you're looking to expand your existing data center footprint and require the same stack as on premises. Again, then VMC can be an option. Or maybe you have an upcoming project for which you need VMware infrastructure without going through a full cycle of hardware and software and data center procurement, and need a fully functioning production-ready VMware infrastructure that is ready in less than 2 hours. Or test and dev environment. You can provision single host environment as well. So maybe for additional test and development environment and capacity, you can utilize VMC as well. Disaster recovery is another top use case for VMC. So maybe building new DR environment in the cloud, or maybe expanding existing DR setup and adding more sites, or maybe sunsetting your existing DR data center are some of the top use cases for VMware Cloud. And last but not the least, which is application modernization. So VMC can be a great service to first migrate and then modernize your workloads on AWS, because the service integrates with services like S3, Amazon FSx, DynamoDB, RDS, and many others. Customers can really use their existing workloads to replace components and modernize using AWS services like managed databases, analytics services, IoT, and others. So it's a great starting point with which you can quickly move to AWS and start modernizing your apps and workloads and leverage the best of native AWS services. The next topic I'd like to talk about is AWS Storage Gateway. So AWS Storage Gateway is our hybrid cloud storage service that gives you on-premises access to virtually unlimited cloud storage. Customers can use AWS Storage Gateway to simplify storage management and reduce cost for key hybrid cloud storage use cases. And these use cases include moving tape backups to the cloud, reducing on-premises storage with cloud-backed file shares, providing low latency access to data in AWS for on-premises applications, as well as various migration, archiving, processing, and disaster recovery use cases. So AWS Storage Gateway supports standard storage protocols such as NFS, SMB, iSCSI, or iSCSI virtual tape library for modernizing your tape infrastructure. The great thing about AWS Storage Gateway that it is backed by AWS cloud storage services like Amazon S3, Amazon S3 Glacier for archival, and Amazon EBS. So AWS Storage Gateway comes in multiple flavors. First is File Gateway, and with this option, you can store and access SMB and NFS file data with local caching, right? So you can replace this for any additional capacity you may need for file storage on premises, and you can deploy the Amazon Storage Gateway appliance on premises, which is now backed by Amazon S3 and unlimited access to S3 storage. Amazon FSx File Gateway is another version of or another flavor of AWS Storage Gateway, which essentially optimizes on-premises access to fully managed, highly reliable file shares in Amazon FSx for Windows file servers. Customers with unstructured or file data, whether SMB-based group shares or business applications, may require on-premises access to low latency requirements. And Amazon FSx File Gateway can really help accelerate your file-based storage migration to AWS to really enable faster performance and improved data protection and reduced cost. Then the third option is Storage Gateway Tape Gateway, which can essentially replace physical tape infrastructure with virtual by leveraging Amazon S3 and different archival tiers such as Glacier and long-term and giving you long-term retention. And then the fourth is Volume Gateway, which is for block storage. Which is essentially a replacement for storage area networks and block storage backed by Amazon S3, iSCSI based, with snapshot integration and AWS backup service integration and cloud recovery integrations. So this is how it works. So on the left, you can see the on-premises environment. You have your different application servers, user workstations, backup servers, and then you have standard protocols such as NFS, SMB, iSCSI, or even iSCSI VTL. And then you have a storage gateway appliance, which is sitting in your on-premises environment and paired with AWS, with an AWS storage gateway managed service in AWS region, and then which is backed by different storage services such as S3, Glacier, AWS Backup, or even Amazon FSx. So essentially, the storage gateway appliance gives local caching capabilities as well as low latency access to your on-premises virtual machines, workstations, applications, and others. And storage gateway is available in different deployment options such as VMware environments, Hyper-V, KVM. It even works for Amazon EC2. and hardware appliance is also available. And there are some partners that sell, especially with Dell, you can get hardware appliance for AWS Storage Gateway. The next service I'd like to talk about is AWS Snow family. And with Snow devices, essentially you can move petabytes of data to and from AWS, or even process data at the edge. So, so if you want a highly secure, portable device to collect and process data at the edge, and also migrate that data into and out of AWS, you can use AWS Snow family devices. So the Snow family of devices comes essentially in 3 flavors. First is AWS Snowball Edge, then Snow Cone, and then Snowmobile. So there are 2 different use cases for these Snow devices. One is data migration to AWS, and the second is edge computing. So let's say in the example of AWS Snowball Edge, this can essentially give you terabytes and petabytes of data, or can help you move terabytes and petabytes of data into and out of AWS. It is essentially an alternate to moving data over the network. And some of the top use cases for Snowball Edge devices can be really large scale data cloud migrations, data center decommissioning, disaster recovery, edge computing. And by edge computing, this can be even, let's say, a truck on the road, a mining station underground, or a ship in the sea, right? All of these can be considered as edge location. Because Snowball Edge has compute capabilities, and you can run services like EC2, AWS Lambda, IoT Greengrass on top of Snowball Edge devices. And also for Snowball Edge, you can get long-term deployment options, such as 1 and 3 year discounted pricing. Also, if you have additional or huge requirements, you can also do storage clustering with these Snowball edges by clustering up to 15 Snowball edges together to increase the storage size. Then we have AWS Snow Cone, which is a small portable computing device that can be placed anywhere, which is rugged and secure, that can really withstand harsh environments. So essentially, the idea here is that you can use Snow Cone where Snowball doesn't fit, like space constrained environments, such as maybe putting Snow Cone on a drone as an example. And Snow Cone also has compute capabilities and supported services like EC2 and IoT Greengrass. Again, Snow Cone is available in about 14 terabytes SSD and 8 terabytes hard drive options. And top use cases is essentially IoT and data transfer. And then we have Snowmobile, which is an actual truck for exabyte scale migration. Again, better than a Snowball if you're migrating more than 10 petabytes of data. Again, these are very few customers have those level of requirements, but I wanted to mention it as well. And even Snowball Edge is available in 3 options, such as storage optimized, compute optimized, and compute optimized with GPU. Next, I will briefly talk about EKS and ECS anywhere. Again, Amazon ECS, which is our elastic container service through which you can run container infrastructure. It is essentially a container orchestrator. So now ECS is available, and as an extension is available on premises as well. So you can run containers on your on-premises infrastructure and leveraging Amazon ECS that lets you run and manage container workloads on your infrastructure. And this can essentially help you meet your compliance requirements and scale your business without essentially sacrificing your on-premises investment, right? And all the control plane, everything is actually in AWS and managed from your AWS console. And if you see in the slide, ECS as a service overall can be run in many different ways, such as AWS regions, such as, which is basically the native ECS service, such as AWS local zones, again, which is a smaller scale version of availability zone closer to your location, AWS wavelength sites, Outpost, you can run on Outpost devices, you can run these. And most recently with in any of your infrastructure in the form of ECS Anywhere. And some of the key architectural tenets of ECS Anywhere is that it is cloud delivered and the control plane essentially sits in your AWS region. And you can continue to benefit from a fully managed experience. Essentially, you install the ECS in your, or ECS Anywhere in your on-premises, and all the control is still through your AWS region. And the only information that is sent to ECS control plane is essentially your host health, container activities, and container health checks if those are configured. Again, it is infrastructure agnostic and can run in any way, such as VMs, bare metal infrastructure, and even maybe on a Raspberry Pi. It is also good for disconnected ECS scenarios where you need compute capabilities, and especially in edge use cases, ECS Anywhere can help and support there as well. The next similar service we have is Amazon EKS. And again, Amazon EKS, similar to ECS, is also available in different forms, such as a full Amazon EKS service in AWS region, EKS in local zones, wavelength sites, Outpost, and most recently with Amazon EKS Anywhere. Again, this is another container solution, but for Kubernetes workloads. And some of the top use cases are supporting low latency applications on premises, modernizing your existing hardware, or utilizing your, or making the best of your on-premises infrastructure investments. Also satisfying data residency requirements. So if you have any requirement such, then you can run these as containers in Amazon EKS, managed by AWS, but sitting in your on-premises environment. Disaster recovery and processing data locally is also some of the top use cases for EKS. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll look into the chat window and the Q&A window and see if there are any questions. Happy to answer those. So over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Saad. Thank you, Saad, for the good session. Please, audience, if you have any question, please just write it down on the chat box so our team will answer your question. And also, I would like to note that please use the link to give us your feedback about the webinar. Let's just wait for a few minutes to see if somebody have a question.
Can we paste the link for feedback in the chat? I think it's there.
Yeah, it is there. It is there. I can share. Hold on. Let me share my screen for the QR code. This is the QR code. If you want to use your mobile for the feedback, you can scan and fill up the form for the feedback as well. So I think, gentlemen, we are good to conclude the webinar. I would like to thank the audience for attending today's webinar. I would like to thank each speaker. Thank you, Saad. Thank you, Ayman. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Sumer, for attending today's webinar and give us the great session for today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ahmad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so much.
everyone, for attending.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for dialing in.
Thank you.